everyone, welcome to Daily Revelations. So, what does your view of God depend on? That we're going to get to. I'm going to tell you what perspective I'm coming at this from as we dive into just God is God. God does not change. Yet, if you talk to one person or another person, what they're going to tell you about God is very different because of many things that have happened to them. And this one other thing that filters everything that God has allowed them to understand about him. Where do I get this from? It's not something I just came up with this morning. It's based on God's word and from multiple different prophets within God's word. So I read the first chapter of, there's quite a few, Ezekiel, Nahum, Hosea, and then I finished up the book of Isaiah as well. So I'm looking at these 4 different prophets and what they're describing about God. And it's very different because of the circumstances and what was going on in the world around them that allowed them to get a perception of who God was. And it's how he revealed himself through those circumstances, through whatever revelations he gave them, their daily revelations personally. But does that mean that he's a different God to each person? No. One time I remember having it described to me as like God is a mountain. And just because I approach the mountain from one side doesn't mean that somebody that's approaching the mountain from a completely different side is approaching a different God. If one of our family's favorite mountains is in the Tetons, it's the Grand Teton. If you look at the Grand Teton from the Teton National Park, it is magnificent. But if you go to the Idaho side on the other side, it's not that impressive of a mountain. It's really just kind of plain. Does that mean that it's a different mountain? No. Geographically, it's the same mountain. Yet, the perception on the one side is much more magnificent than that on the other side. But it's the same mountain. So, oftentimes when God reveals himself to us, he places us on a specific side of his mountain that is catered to who he wants us to see as part of him, who he is revealing himself because of what he's doing in our own lives, how he is calling us to interact with the world that we live in on that particular facade of the mountain. And yet, in his own divine power, he has chosen that perfect place for us. And we need to see that through a lens that allows us to embrace whatever he reveals to him. And it all has to do with faith. We can either choose to accept or reject what God shows us. And it has nothing to do with being able to reason with it. Not being able to find concrete evidence of it. But just taking God's word of him saying, this is me, this is what you can trust in, now follow me. And in Isaiah, he lays out very succinctly and perfectly the 2 paths we can take, the one of faith or the one of mistrust, and not allowing what God has shown us to sink in deep and to allow what we see of God to become part of our life and to really embrace who God is and how he's revealing himself to us. So there is those that are humble who have a contrite spirit, who tremble at God's word, who seek God, who see themselves as clay and God as the potter, and they wait on God. That truly is an encapsulation of what faith is. And when we do these things, we show we have faith beyond what we can understand. Because the opposite chooses to trust in itself. It does not answer to God. It says, I've got a way, and I'm going to follow that way. It doesn't listen to him either when they do hear. They follow their own thoughts. They provoke God straight to his face. They forsake him, they forget him, and they follow two fallen angels who have names that are given in Isaiah, called Destiny and Fortune. Do we see that all the time? Yes, we do. It's what people are seeking all over our world, and they've been seeking it since the beginning of time. This is my destiny. This is my fortune. This is what I was made for. But God says, I am making you into something new. I am the potter. You are the clay. You don't control this. It all goes back to faith. And can we see that the circumstances God is allowing in our lives is making us something better instead of destroying what we think we should have or we should be doing or how life should be working out. And that goes then back to who we tell others God is. Because if I am angry with God because he's doing things in my life that I don't want him to do and I'm not trusting him about, my perception of God will be very different than someone who is resting in him and saying, God is working this out and I trust in him. And I have faith that this is going to turn out the way he says it's going to turn out in the end, for my good and for the good of those around me. So, hope that's an encouragement for you today. Thanks for joining me on Daily Revelations. I will not be here tomorrow, but I'll be back the next day. So just keep digging. And we're going to keep plowing on through now that I'm back in my biblical theology class. So I'll be coming with you with things that we're going to head into the book of Jeremiah next and see what we have to share from there. So have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.